It's hard to coach effort.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. And today's Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast is also brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the mobile app for the easiest way to buy tickets and use the promo code LOFANTASY to get yourself a $20 rebate on your first purchase. Today's show is also brought to you by Chris Patterson, who's today's Patreon sponsor. So if you want to be like Chris, head across to patreon.com/redrock_bball to become a Patreon sponsor of the show. My name is Josh Lloyd, and as always, you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. We've got stuff to talk about because there were 11 games that went down on the NBA. Very unbalanced schedule this week. 11 games Monday. We've got a pretty pissy 3-game schedule for Tuesday to talk about. So
let's get to it.
We will start off as we always start off, or mostly start off, maybe that's the best way of putting it, with the monstrous line of the night. And it goes to, which I believe it's his first time for the season, Kevin Love of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Lovey dropped 39 points. He had 6 triples, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, had 3 steals, was 11 of 17 from the field, was 11 of 11 from the line, and had a fantastic 3-quarter length court pass to LeBron James for that ludicrous game-tying, banked-in 3-pointer that he took, which was one of the weirdest. That game was so good. Washington, Cleveland. I don't want to talk about it too much just in terms of how good it was to watch, but it was one of the best games of the season. And what a crazy ending with LeBron missing that layup after taking at least 17 steps. And you couldn't. How could you have missed that layup? And then how does he hit that 3-pointer? And Love with a fantastic pass. He was great throughout this whole game, Love. And this is coming, like an hour or two after the rumor broke that LeBron and Chris Paul will do anything to acquire Carmelo Anthony, whatever the cost, including sending Kevin Love back with LeBron. And then LeBron comes out after the game and says that the report is trash and the writer who wrote it is trash. Shout out Frank Casola. So yeah, a very eventful day for Kevin Love and the Cavs. And this is what I say, all these trade rumors come out, they're nearly all bullshit. We saw a big trade rumor, and I will get back to talking about Kevin Love in a sec. A huge trade which was reported by millions of people. A little exaggeration, just using Donald Trump crowd logic there. Yeah, quite all the big name NBA reporters, Jelly Okafor to the Pelicans, it's really close to happening. And then it sort of started drifting. Oh, they're looking for a 2017 pick, but they want it lottery protected on that. No, New Orleans wants to give a 2018 pick. Oh, Philadelphia wants to throw in, wants Drew Holiday to come back. Oh, New Orleans wants to throw Omer Ashik in to take his dead salary away. So lots of weird stuff going on. And with so many people reporting it with that Jelly Okafor situation, the questions were pouring in. Do I grab him? And I'll say this about Jelly Okafor. You saw him starting today. He was terrible. He's just what he is. He's not a good player. So he needs 30-plus minutes, and he needs big usage, 25, 26% usage, to even have a chance of cracking the top 100. He is not the number 1 focus in New Orleans if he goes there. He's not the number 2 focus in New Orleans if he goes there. And if Tyreek Evans remains, he's not the number 3 focus in New Orleans in terms of guys with the ball in their hand. He would struggle to get 30 minutes. Yeah, Anthony Davis, they want him to play with a center. Him and Jelly Okafor, that seems yuck. That's not doing that's not doing what Davis wants, and having someone to take the pressure off him with a big body defensively. It doesn't help him at all. Just a weird scenario. So you could grab him, but I just wouldn't be expecting too much upside-wise. I've completely diverted off Kevin Love. I will get back to him in a sec. And then the next question comes in. So what do we do with Nerlens Noel? Nothing changes for Nerlens Noel. Yes, Nerlens Noel would become the starter on the days that Embiid misses, but he's not going out there and playing 30 minutes. There's been 4 times already this season when Noel has played without Okafor and without Embiid, and his minutes have gone down every game. Like 29, 28... 25, 24, I believe, in the 4 games that he has played without Okafor and Embiid, because they'll just bring Richaun Holmes in and split the minutes that way. So it's not like you're going to be getting, Embiid's going to miss all this time and Noel's going to play 32 a night and he's going to dominate. He just remains in his 20-minute backup role with the occasional start that might give him 26 or 27 minutes maybe. But he's just staying in his... Because remember, when everyone's healthy, Jelly Okafor doesn't play for Philadelphia. He doesn't play. So nothing changes for Noel on all of those nights. And yes, he will get maybe an extra couple of minutes in the games that Embiid would sit, but Richaun Holmes is a very good centre, probably as good as Jahlil Okafor in many instances or many circumstances. So not a lot changes. Let's get back to Kevin Love. We got diverted talking about trade rumours and all that sort of stuff. Love has been really impressive this season, a guy that's taken a big step forward from where he was last year, playing basically the same amount of time, but he's scoring 4 extra points per game. He's shooting the ball better, but he's getting more usage. He was at 23.6 last year. He's at 26.8, taking more shots, hitting them better, getting to the line more and hitting those at 5% extra. Grabbing 11 rebounds as opposed to 10 a game. Still doesn't do anything steals-wise, blocks-wise. Can't get his assist numbers back to where they were in Minnesota. But he's hitting so many threes. He's scoring points. He is averaging 20 and 11. So he is a top 25 player and he's not ever getting back to Minnesota Kevin Love. I think we understand that. And if we look back at Minnesota Kevin Love, like he averaged 26 and 12.5 with 4.5 assists and 2.5 threes, like stupid numbers. And we don't really appreciate just how good he was in terms of fantasy stats in those days. But he is fairly established now as this sort of third round player, and I think he will remain there for the majority of the season. So a good resurrection from Kevin Love, and if you got him in the 5th round, which is where he was going in some cases, 4th round most of the time, he's turning into a nice little bargain for you so far this season. Let's talk, let's talk about today's sponsor right now, and that is SeatGeek. SeatGeek's been with us for quite a while, and we're very appreciative of that. So you know about SeatGeek. You know, buying tickets online for sports, and concerts, it's always been a relatively confusing process. But now, it's not. SeatGeek simplifies all of that for you. SeatGeek's different. They've come along, they've created this amazing app and a website that makes it easier than ever for fans to buy tickets and to sell tickets to whatever event that they're looking for. It's the first place that I go. It's the first place that you should go when you're looking for tickets to sporting events, concerts, musicals, whatever it is. Get that SeatGeek app on your phone, tap away at whatever it is you're looking for, whether you're looking for tickets to some of the All-Star festivities. You'll see some of those pop up on SeatGeek. Any random NBA games that are happening, NHL games, baseball seasons, you're not far off. Spring training games will start appearing on SeatGeek. Heaps of stuff that's happening over there, and you can always find the best tickets and the best prices. SeatGeek does the price comparison for you by searching multiple ticket sites and ensuring you get the best possible deal. It does all the work, it saves you time and money, and it gives you the most bang for your buck. That's why every ticket on SeatGeek is given a grade based on value, and they show that based on colours. Green is a go, red is stop. If you can read traffic lights, you can understand the SeatGeek value system. You'll immediately see any underpriced seats and be able to find the best deals that fit your budget. Best of all listeners to this podcast, you get a $20 rebate off your first SeatGeek purchase. To get that $20 rebate, it's simple. Download the SeatGeek app and go to the settings tab and click add a promo code. That promo code is LO Fantasy. LO Fantasy. Once you enter that promo code and make your first purchase on SeatGeek, they will send you $20. Yes, $20. That's as simple as it is. So not only do you get a way to support this podcast, not only do you get the best value on tickets, but SeatGeek just goes off for the hell of it. Here's $20. Why wouldn't you? Download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code LO Fantasy today. Now, let's talk waiver wire line of the night. Matty Barnesy from the Sacramento Kings. Barnesy is trending up, and that's because Rudy Gay is out, and that's also because Garrett Temple was out. He was the guy that I was pretty interested in as soon as Gay went down. I think he's a better fit than Temple in that position, but that wasn't the way that Dave Yeager went. He did go to Temple, but now with Temple down, he is going for Barnesy, and Barnesy put up a good line, 19, 9, and 5 with 3 triples. He was 7 of 10 from the field. He was 2 of 2 from the line. He was 1 of 1 on late game brain fart inbound passes. But he still put up a good fantasy line. And this is 2 really strong games in a row from Barnesy. He came off an 11 and 14 double-double in the last one, and then a 19-9-5 today. He has had double-digit rebounds in 3 of the last 4, and today he had 9. So he is really helping at the moment, and he can be a top 100 player as long as Garrett Temple's out, probably until the All-Star break. But that's going to be valuable for 12-teamers. Maybe not a 10-team league guy, but he's going to have this short-term value for 12-teamers. He's averaging 34 minutes a game over the last week. And he gets 34 minutes a game. He is going to be a top 100 guy. And it was like 2 years ago where he had a stretch where he was a top 50 player for like 2-3 months with the Clippers in these sort of minutes in a situation where Blake Griffin went down. He stepped up and was forced into a big role and did it. One of the things that's been keeping Barnesy out of value recently, this season and last season, is his piss poor shooting. 38% last year, and he's at 38% this year. But in the last 4 games, he's shooting at 43%. So that's increasing what he can do. The rebounding is good. He can get steals. He can block some shots. He can hit some threes. I like Barnes as a short-term ad only, and maybe he can stick once Temple comes back, because I do think that he does offer them more. But that doesn't matter what I think. It matters really what Dave Yeager thinks, and that hasn't been the way he's been leaning. But with the way Barnes has played, I think he's been more impactful, at least offensively, as opposed to what Temple can do. Temple's a much better defender, but Barnes gives him the extra size. So that's something to look forward to with this team, just to see exactly how they're going to run that moving forward. Let's talk young gun of the night. We won't stay long on this because, once again, it's Karl Anthony Towns. He went 35-8 with 2 triples, 2 steals, 1 block, brilliant percentages, and he remains elite. He's the 9th ranked player over the last 2 months. He's the 4th ranked over the last month. I would be stunned if he found himself out of the top 10 in any of these last months. He is 14th for the season because of that slow start, but he is rolling at the moment, shooting 59% over the last month from the field with a true shooting of 70%, hitting 1.3 triples. He is a 1-1 player over the last month. He barely misses for the season, where he's at 1.2 threes, 0.7 steals, and 1.5 blocks. But over the last month, he is that 1-1 player. He's a 27.5 and 12.5 player with a 1-1, with 3 assists on 59 and 81. I talked about Kevin Love's numbers before. These are stupendous. And he's hitting his threes at 50%. I think we just expect brilliance out of Karl Anthony Towns. You can talk about Nikola Jokic, which I love doing. You can talk about Joel Embiid. But Karl Anthony Towns is in his 2nd season. He'd be a junior in college. And he is just doing this every single night at the moment. And we expect greatness. And he delivers, so I guess it gets not as much attention. But he's been great. He wasn't great to start the season, and I called him out on it. I'm sure he gave no bother whatsoever about what I said. But I did say, look, he's struggling a bit. He can't hit his shots. That's come around, and everything else looks pretty good from Townsy. The dud of the night. This was not a good performance. That's why you get the dud of the night from Ersan Ilyasova, who has been playing fantastically this year. But when you drop a 3.1 rebound, 2 assist line with no steals, no blocks, and go 1 of 8 from the field, you get the dud of the night. Now, Ersan's been a surprise performer all season. He is a top 100 player. He has been fantastic for Philadelphia, so I think we just chalk this up to one stinker. I did get the question today, do you think that they're going to minimise Ersan to give more minutes to Dario Saric? I'm not 100% convinced that they do that. I think that a lot of players are going to take a hit when Ben Simmons gets back. Ersan, Saric, McConnell, guys like Stauskas, Gerald Henderson, all across the entire lineup, because Simmons is such a weird player that he's a point guard trapped in a power forward's body. So what rotations will they run? Will they run some with Simmons at the 4? Will they run him at the 1 with Stauskas, Covington, Ilyasova, Embiid at times? I'm sure they will do that. So players are not going to just all of a sudden lose 10 minutes a game. You're going to have 5 players lose 5 minutes a game, or something along those lines, or 7 players lose 3 minutes, or something along those lines. Just multiple players losing minutes as Simmons gets integrated into many different positionless type situations. So for now, you just ride out Ilyasova, unless there's just some brilliant option on your waiver wire. I would be stunned that there would be. You just keep riding him out, and then when he goes, he goes. And that's it. Simple as that. But he's been great this year, Ersan. Interesting to see what they do with him heading into next season, given that he is an unrestricted free agent. Let's now get into these games, and we'll talk about them in a little bit more detail, as we always do during this part of the show. The first game we'll take a look at was that fantastic Cleveland and Washington game. It went to overtime. LeBron, just another 42 minutes for LeBron. He just keeps racking up minutes at a crazy rate, to be honest. And there are some serious minute issues happening across the league, and it's going to bite people in the ass at some point. Now, LeBron is fairly cyborgish. He doesn't get hurt, but there's a lot of minutes. This is the most minutes he's played in a long time. Look, shit's going to go down. I don't know when, I don't know where, I don't know how, in what form, but something is going to give. Now, LeBron was great. He had a career high, 17 assists. Don't worry about your other playmakers, LeBron. Like, you are the other playmaker. He had 32, 7, and 17. He hit 6 triples, had 2 steals and 2 blocks, and went 67% from the field. He was also a putrid 40% from the line, and that has been a really understated part of LeBron. If you don't own LeBron in leagues, you wouldn't realize that he's basically a punt free throw guy this season. He's never been a great free throw guy, but he is horrible this year. Tristan Thompson was massive as well, 22 and 12 for Tomo. With 13 shots, he hit 10 of them, and Kyrie dropped 23 points with 5 assists. And after LeBron fouled out, which I believe is the 5th time in LeBron's career that he's fouled out, 5 times that he's fouled out, Kyrie and Love took over in that overtime to get their victory. For the Cavs, Kyrie was pretty solid, just didn't shoot the ball well. Iman Shumpert suffered an ankle sprain on that Bradley Beal crossover. I just don't get hyped up for those things. People are very, tweeting in all caps when that sort of shit goes down. For some reason, it just doesn't get me excited. He ended him. He broke his ankles. Like, Shumpert tripped over Kevin Love and sprained his ankle in that one. So that's exactly what happened there. So you can't give all that credit to Beal, but it just doesn't get me pumped. I don't know why. I just don't say, oh, look at that, you wrecked him. Cool. Good on you. It just doesn't excite me. I do not know why. Maybe I'm just completely dead inside. Anyway, as for Shumpert, 24 minutes, 0 points, 2 rebounds, ankle sprain, in a walking boot. He was a borderline guy anyway. Arse gone. See you later. Not much else happening there with the Cavs. Now, if Shumpert misses, which I imagine that he will, you're going to see more DeAndre Liggins, who was a DNP CD, but we've seen DeAndre Liggins in a bigger role this season. It's a bigger role of nothing. He gives you nothing. You're going to see more Kay Fowler, a bit more Dickie Jefferson, some more Kyle Korver, but not enough for those players to be owned in 12ers. Braddles Beal, another big game, 45 minutes. Oh, Jesus. You just keep getting... Look, he hasn't been injured, and you just keep getting worried, although the minutes have been eased off lately, which is good. 41 points for Bealey, 6 triples, 5 boards, 8 assists, 57% shooting. This is the Brad Beal that we hoped for about 2 years ago. He has taken tremendous steps forward this year, and he looks like a fantastic player at the moment. Otto Porter, I believe I tweeted out or retweeted the Jeff Zilgett tweet about Otto Porter's shot chart from his threes, and it's literally just green everywhere. And you go, okay, then why has the dude got a 15% usage? Which is just ludicrously low. As you know, or maybe you don't know, usage rate is the amount of possessions that a player uses while he is on the court. So either by a field goal attempt or a turnover. They're the 2 ways that you can end a possession. Field goal attempt or a turnover. That's all that usage counts. And there's 100% of plays, obviously. 5 guys on the court. So average is 20%. He's at 15%. And yes, he defers to Wall and Beal, but he doesn't play every single minute with Wall and Beal. He needs to shoot the ball more, especially considering he is one of the best shooters in the NBA. And he did it again tonight. He only took 11 shots, but scored 25 points. Had 5 triples, 6 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block. And honestly, the lack of usage with Porter and lack of shots is what keeps him from being a consistent top 20 player this year, which is just one of the stupidest sentences I could have imagined I would say at this point of the year. That and that Nick Young started every game that he's played. They're 2 things that if you'd had told me in the preseason, I would have been stunned that Otto Porter is a top 20 guy if he gets enough shots. It just doesn't sound right, but it's exactly where it is because he keeps rebounding. He's hitting threes at crazy rates, getting steals, and he's been awesome. Another big minute night for Marcin Gortat, 16 and 8 in 38, while Johnny Wall went 22, 4 and 12. So big nights from the big guns, while Markieff Morris had 15 and 6. He fouled out, so he was limited by foul trouble, and that allowed Kelly Oubre to play 28 and went 11 and 7 with 4 steals. A good night from Oubre. He's been getting the minutes, but he hasn't been putting up the production on a regular basis. So he's just a guy that we leave for the deeper leagues, but he has shown way more this season than what we've seen from him in the past. The Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers, Russ just missed the triple-double, 27, 18, and 9, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 4 triples, murdered your percentage, once again, just 37% on 27 attempts. And you know how I joke about the Knicks center rotation? You play big minutes, you get a DNP CD next game, and then it started coming true, and I went, well, shit, it's not a joke. And then I started joking about the Thunder big man, about what they're going to do in place of Enes Kanter. Oh, we're going to have Sabonis one game, yep, no worries. We're going to have Jeremy Grant, big minutes the next game, yep. We're going to have Joffrey Laverne, big minutes the next game. Well, shit, that's weird. 3 games in a row, they're just rotating between those three guys. And as a joke for the 4th game, it'll be back to Sabonis. It was. He played 32 minutes. And then yesterday I said, it's probably time for Jeremy Grant to play big minutes. He played 28. And Sabonis played 10. And Laverne played 20. So by that logic, Laverne's playing 26 or 28 next game. If that holds true, then I will just go, Billy, what's this shit? You're just doing it on a repeating pattern basis? That's not how things should work in a professional league. But anyway, let's talk Jeremy Grant. He blocked 5 shots. That's what he can do. He can't do anything else, but that's what he can do. 8 points, 4 boards for Grandy. He's a guy that you leave for the deeper formats. Well, Andre Robertson, 2 monsters in a row. 11 and 11 in 36 minutes for Robbo. 2 steals, 2 blocks. Great numbers. He's been nowhere near that all season. He is getting some of these extra boards with Cantor out, and he has been an above-average rebounder in his career. Hasn't really manifested this season, but he came into the league as a power forward out of Colorado, and he has been an above-average rebounder for a wing. So he is getting more of these boards with Cantor out. He's still just a streaming defense option guy, though. Steve Adams, 15 and 9 in 37, while Vic Oladipo wasn't a good night. 4 of 16 for 14 points, with some other nice numbers in there. He had 5 boards, a steal, and a block. Not much else happening there on the bench. Without Sabonis, I said, played 10 minutes and went scoreless. At least he took 1 shot, though. For the Pacers, Paulie George, 21, 8, and 4 with 3 steals on a lot of shots. Tried to rival Russ Westbrook. They actually undershot him, which is not an easy thing to do. While Miles Turner, who was ill coming to the game, he really got the defensive numbers going. 2 steals and 4 blocks, but just the 10 points on 12 shots with 5 rebounds, and he was getting roasted at times in this game by Steve Adams. Jeffy Teague had 17, 4, and 3.
My name is Jeff.
And Glenn Robinson off the bench, 24 minutes, 14 points with 3 triples. Robbo really does like playing that bench role. When he goes as a starter, he gets sucked into a negative usage vortex, but he's played much better in the bench role. Speaking of negative usage vortexes, CJ Miles started. He had 8 points in 20 minutes, deep league guy only. And I know I promised that I wouldn't talk about him again, but let's just do it one more time. Monte Ellis had 2 points in 22 minutes. He's like officially, he's finished. He is finished. Lavoy Allen started in place of Thad Young. Only the 2 points for Allen, but he played 30 minutes. He had 5 boards, 3 assists, and 2 blocks. And as long as Young remains out, which looks like he might miss a couple more would be my guess for Thad, you're going to get some okay big man numbers. There's obviously no long-term value in Allen, but he's a decent rebounder usually who can put up some numbers, but it won't be as big as what he did in that first game that he started in place of Thad. The Lakers and the Knicks. Big news for the Lakers. It is youth movement time, where they have made the necessary adjustments. They have benched Tim Mozgov. Not only is he benched, he is out of the rotation. So he is done. Tariq Black started in place of him, and Luol Deng got benched. Now he remains in the rotation, but Brandon Ingram started. So a few things are different there. But honestly, when you look at the box score, nothing brilliant really happened. Lou Williams had 22 points with 4 assists in 26 minutes. A nice Lou Williams night. Now, Ivica Zubac's my man. Now he's the second string center, the backup center. Looked great, but still only played 17 minutes. 10 and 7 with a steal and 4 blocks. He's obviously got a better path for minutes now. He is going to play more, according to Walton. Can he leapfrog Tariq Black? I think he can, because I don't think Black is that good. But that's still a way away. Is he a player to own in 12s? If you're ready for some rocky roads, if you're ready for some underperforming nights, or quite a few of them. In fact, I wouldn't really say that Zubats is a must-own. You know I like him. You know that I've been on the Zubats train since May, probably. For a very, very long time. I've been telling you that Zubats has got one of the best fantasy upsides out of this entire rookie class. He's a top 5 guy in this rookie class. But that doesn't mean shit unless he's playing enough minutes to turn that into production. So he's got one more player to leapfrog, and that is Black. Now, Black played only 20 minutes, so they had 2 centers, and they played them 37 minutes as they went with Larry Nance at center a little bit more as well. 9 and 10 for Black. He's a deeper league sort of player. As for Nance, he had a double-double. He had 3 steals, and he played 31 minutes. If he gets 30 minutes a night, he's a must-own guy, and that's 2 games in a row, one with and one without Julius Randle. But we're still not getting full-strength Julius. He played only 17 minutes. He had 14, 2 and 2. So we can't get the full story on what's happening with the bigs. Like, what's Nance, Zubats, Black? What are they going to do when Randle's getting back to 29 or 30 minutes? As for Brandon Ingram, he played 33 minutes. Minutes has never been the problem for him when he was starting. He'd play 36, 37. It's production. And this is not a bad game from Ingram. 14 and 7. 2 threes, 2 assists, 1 steal. 46% shooting is better than anything you could hope for. 2 of 5 from the line, not ideal. And they said he did airball a free throw. It was nerves. He was starting at Madison Square Garden. But this guy's not a good free throw shooter. He is not a good free throw shooter. And until he becomes a good free throw shooter, he will be labelled not a good free throw shooter. Is he a must-add guy? No. Can he be owned? Sure. He can contribute, But I think for him to crack through the top 100 or top 75, it's going to be a bit of a stretch for him this season, just because the shooting is just so piss poor. He just has issues getting defensive numbers as well. He's going to have a few good nights. He's going to have some where he looks terrible, but he's in a much better position now. D'Angelo Russell only played 20 minutes, obviously frustrating. 4 points, but still had the 6 assists, distributing quite a bit. The Lakers got up big here, and they didn't push him minutes. Same with Randall. As I mentioned, well, Uncle P only saw the 22. He went 17 and 5, with 3 triples. For the Knicks, Joakim Noah was out. So Jeff Hornacek started Kylo Quinn. Of course he did, but in the second half, it was all Billy Hernangomez. But in a night with no Joakim Noah, Hernangomez somehow plays less than what he did in the previous game. 24 minutes, because why wouldn't you want to give 2 minutes of Marshall Plumlee in there? That's what we need. We need 55 seconds of Maurice Ndua. Now, that's not much. That's 3 minutes of playing time. But surely it's a blowout. Just keep Bill in there. Regardless, I think you got to own Bill in basically all leagues at this point. 8 and 13 with 2 steals and a block for Hernangomez. They also played a lot of Rose and Jennings together, and moving Kristaps to the 5. Rose, Jennings, Lee, Anthony, Kristaps. So Brandon had 28 minutes, 16, 3 and 5. He's always been worth owning just for his assists this season. But if he's getting 27 a night, then you can own him everywhere, as long as you're willing to deal with a hit in field goal percentage. As for Porzingis, 33 minutes, 16 and 9 with 2 blocks. A better performance, not great, but better. The 36% from the field and the 71 from the line is far from ideal. While Mallow had 26, 3 and 5, at least he didn't get booed at the start of this game by the Knicks fans. Let's go on to Philadelphia and Detroit. No Embiid still. Jahlil Okafor was back and he started. He played 26 minutes and had 16 points. He is such a pathetic rebounder at the moment. Just the 4 boards, 1 steal, no blocks, and 2 of 7 from the line. A horrible performance. And this, somewhat people go to me, what do you think of Okafor if he gets traded? This is what I think of Okafor when he gets traded. If he gets traded to New Orleans, 26 minutes, 16 and 4, with no other numbers. This is what I think of Okafor. I was never high on him last season. I was definitely not high on him this season. I am not high on him moving forward. This is what I think he is. He'd be great if he got traded to a D-League team and took 40% usage and went 30 and 15. Probably wouldn't get 15 rebounds. But he's just not going to fit into an NBA team and be able to do all that stuff. I don't believe. I'm very much not a believer in Jahlil Okafor. TJ McConnell had 10 and 7 with 2 assists and a steal. Not a bad night from him. While Luwawu Cabarro played 21 and went 9, 5 and 2. The guy's just a good player. Not a good fantasy contributor. He's just a good player. Bob Cove was back. 29 minutes for Bob. 11 and 4, 3 steals, 2 triples. 2 of 10 shooting. So we're back to the old November Bob Cove days. But back in the November Bob Cove days, get to the steals and did it again. And that's why he has value. Dario Saric had 13, 6 and 4 on a night where Ilyasova was fairly putrid. Nerlens Noel in that backup role played 16 minutes, 5 and 5. I'm not convinced that Nerlens is a must-hold guy because I just don't see his role getting large enough to maintain enough value. He plays 20 or so minutes, that's fine, but this is a game without Embiid and he played 16. He's a long way away from being a must-own guy, I think. He still can be owned, but he's not a, if I saw him on the waiver, I'd go, shit, let's go grab Nerlens. For the Pistons, Marcus Morris, 3 big ones in a row. Unsurprisingly, he played 39 minutes because he does need a lot of minutes to put up these numbers. 19 and 8 with 3 assists and a steal. Absolutely fine to own now, but it is going to drop off. This is what he does. Well, Andre Drummond only saw 26 minutes, had 16 and 17 with 3 steals and a block. A nice performance for him. The Pistons had this one in control, so there was some extra minutes given to the bench players, but Reggie Jackson still only saw 28, 14, 2 and 6, while Ish Smith had 11, 1 and 4. I like Ish Smith as an assist stream and as a deeper league sort of player at the moment. KCP was all right, 12 and 4, while Toby Harris is really struggling. 9 and 8 for Toby in 27 minutes. Can't get enough minutes, can't put up big production. It's been a weird situation for him lately. I think you still have to hold, but it's a watch this space. As the tackle box, Johnny Lua had 12 and 5 in his 23 minutes. Not a must-own player, I don't believe. Can be owned, but not a must-owned. Big difference there. Utah and Atlanta. Utah, they spanked them. So when you look at the minutes for players on both teams, they were spread quite a bit. Gordon Hayward was fantastic. 30 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals. 67% shooting. Great stuff from Gordo for the second consecutive game. And we also had a visit from 2015 Derek Favors. He played 26 minutes and had 20 and 10, 3 steals and 2 blocks on 10 of 12 shooting. Fantastic from Derek. I was really worried about him because he took 2 games off for rest, then came back and played 10 minutes. And what is going on with this bloke? Very encouraging signs. He's got top 50 upside. I doubt that he gets there this year. He hasn't been able to hit shots at all. He hasn't been able to play minutes at all. So I'm doubtful that he gets back to that. But the upside's no joke. It's big. It's top 50. It's top 40. Yeah, there was legit arguments, and I had these discussions with people in the off-season. Who was the Jazz's best player? And it was Gordon or Derek. Now it's Gordon by a long way. And then it's George Hill or Rudy Gobert. It favours from, you ask some people, Derek Favors is the best player on this team. And that is not the case. He has been bothered by injuries that nothing was even major. He's got, what was it, I'm going to muck this up, VT band soreness? Or he didn't have big knee surgery or anything like that. Just something after the first couple of preseason games, just got a sore knee and has never recovered. Really weird stuff. The overall thing, you have to say, Josh, stop rambling. Like, what do you do with Favors? If you want to grab him and just think, hey, maybe this is the step back, do it. But I would be hesitant to think that that's going to be the case for him. Georgie Hill, 22, 4 and 8 with a steal and a block. A good night from him, while Gobert blocked 3 shots and went 14 and 6. Joey Ingles started in place of Rocket Rodney Hood. 24 minutes for Joe. 6, 4 and 2. 2 steals, 2 triples. But the presence of Joe Johnson, the presence of Alec Burks, the re-emergence of Dante Exum into the rotation is going to impact Ingles from getting enough minutes to be that player that was a top 100 guy for that stretch while Rocket was out last time. So he's more of a deeper league ad now. For the Hawks, just spanked. Paul Millsap continues to be, I won't say bad, but not good. He's not Paul Millsap, I'll give you that. 36 minutes for Millsap, 14, 8 and 3 on 29% shooting and 63 from the line. I get lots of questions about Millsap. Do I go and get Millsap now? And people will give back top 20 guys and they go, oh, you don't think Millsap's turning it around? Like, no, I don't. We've seen 3-4 months of this now. I think this is just Millsap. The guy's 32 years old and he's playing with Dwight Howard. Things are different and this is how they are from now on. Kent Bazemore had 8 points with 3 steals in his 29. And Timmy Hardaway, this is a more Tim Hardaway line. 14 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists in 29 minutes. Still really useful. But we must remember that Tabo Cephalosha was not playing, so another couple of minutes can come off the top there for Timmy, and that's going to render him not a useful guy for standard leagues, I don't believe. DeAndre Bembry playing first quarter minutes. I don't think that'll happen when Tabo comes back, but it's good to see him getting into that rotation, and he's clearly jumped ahead of Taurean Prince for the time being. The next game that we're going to take a look at is the Los Angeles Clippers and the Toronto Raptors. Ray Felton was back in the starting lineup with Paul Pierce moving back to a advisory role, I guess, of just sitting there and not playing. Felton played 36 minutes, 7, 6 and 6 for Ray. Good numbers. He's not going to score you a lot. He's going to get you those assists, and that's fine for 12s until Chris Paul returns, while Austin Rivers dropped 22 points with not a lot else, but 22 points on 50% shooting is clearly very useful, and that's exactly what Austin gave you. JJ Redick had 12 points, while DeAndre had a very substandard 9 and 12 game. But Blake Griffin was brilliant. A triple-double for Blake, 26, 11 and 11, and he did it on 58% shooting, while Jamal Crawford with another good night. He had 14 points, and this is something I never thought I'd say, but Jamal Crawford had a Richie Beno.
2 for 2.
Yeah, getting 2 steals and 2 blocks out of Jamal is a little bit fluky, and so much of his recent production has been fluky. The 50% shooting, now the defensive numbers. He would have been great for these last 3 or 4 games, but there's just no way to really expect that to continue. Luke Marmute continues to have a minimal role, 2 points in 12 minutes for Marmute. I don't think that he's getting those minutes back, so that's going to mean more minutes for Rivers even when Chris Paul comes back. Onto the Raptors. I talked about LeBron's minutes. I'm shit scared of Kyle Lowry's minutes. 38 minutes here. Continues to play just way too many, and March is going to come, and he's going to dip. He's already dipped. He's already seen his field goal percentage drop and his production drop over the last month or two. And he had 24, 4 and 8, which is still good on 43% shooting, but it's not the top 10 level that we saw from him last season or beginning this season. And I'm really worried that he is going to dip and he is going to burn out. DeMar DeRozan was back. He played 38 minutes. Again, why are we playing these guys so many minutes? 31, 5 and 2 with a steal and 2 triples for DeMar. Real bonus there. Great numbers with percentages as well. But the curious case of where is Dwayne Casey's brain is still around, because you know my boy Norm Powell. You've heard of Norm Powell before. Norm Powell was the starter when DeMar DeRozan was out. He played 35 a night. He played 36 a night. He played bloody well in pretty much all of those games. He outplayed spuds like DeMar Carroll and Terry Ross, although Ross is not really a spud, but yeah, Powell is a better player. He outplayed them. So Dwayne Casey's genius response to that is, Norm, you did so well and we played you so many minutes and you've shouldered a big load, so therefore you will play 0 minutes in first quarter. You will play 0 minutes in the second quarter. Out of the rotation. You will play 0 minutes in the third quarter. Yep, just Norm Powell is just not going to play. What a travesty. Oh, actually, Norm, can you play the entire fourth quarter? What the hell rotation is this? It just, where is the logic? Do any of these coaches think? Why is Powell not playing at all and then playing an entire quarter? Why is that happening? Why is Fred VanVleet not playing at all and Kyle Lowry playing 38 minutes? When VanVleet had played 20 plus the last two and done well and earned those minutes. I will never understand. Now I'm getting questions again about Powell. Do I hold on to him? No, he's just not going to play minutes. Unless DeRozan is out or Carroll is out, he's not playing. Casey is not going to just all of a sudden... I think he should, but he won't. He is a stubborn bastard. He won't do it. He's not just going to say, all right, Carroll, you're out. Let's get Norm in there and play him 30 a night. Even though it would be better, it's just not going to happen. As for Carroll, he had 7 points. No, he didn't have 9 points with 5 boards in 23 minutes and remains Utah DeMar Carroll when Toronto paid for Atlanta DeMar Carroll. Jonas Valanciunas was great, 21 and 12 in 32 minutes, while Bebe Nogueira had 8 and 6 with 3 steals in 26 minutes. No blocks, but still got the defensive numbers going, and he fits plenty of teams and should be owned in a lot of cases. Phoenix and New Orleans. The TJ Warren negative Eric Bledsoe correlation continued. Some of it is, I need to do a full study on it, but some of it is just, I guess, confirmation bias. But TJ played 33 minutes in a game that Bledsoe saw just 24 due to foul trouble. He scored 20 points, had 4 boards, 2 steals and 3 blocks, and took the most shots on the team outside of Devin Booker. And this is the TJ Warren that we saw to begin the season when Bledsoe struggled. And since he's come back, Bledsoe's been on fire, and TJ takes 5 shots, 6 shots, doesn't hit them, doesn't do anything defensively. Good numbers from TJ, but this is actually about 2 or 3 strong ones in a row from him, so I've got no problem with going back and adding him off the waiver wire if he's around. 11 and 12 for Tyson Chandler with 2 blocks, only the 24 minutes, and his minutes have come down recently. It hasn't necessarily meant that we've seen lots of Alex Len, because he only played 9 minutes, but Chandler's minutes are coming down. And the other day I gave Earl Watson some praise. It doesn't happen often, but I did, because I said, you know what? He's committing to Marquise Chris. He will play him 25 or 26 minutes a night. Chris looks good. And the only time he hasn't in the last week and a half is a game where he got 5 fouls in 15 minutes. And you know what? You can't play him more than that. I understand that. Until today comes and he plays 17 minutes with only 2 fouls. The Earl Watson, whatever's going on there, is fully at work. I will never understand it. He's looking good. He's showing progress. And then he gets limited to 17 minutes. And this was a game without Dragon Bender. This was a game where Tyson Chandler and Alex Len did not play 48 minutes at center. There were minutes there for him everywhere. It just did not happen. He can have 12-team value. He is clearly not there yet. PJ Tucker had 6 and 5 with 2 steals. Great steal specialist. That's probably where he is, though, at the moment. We also had the resurrection of Jared Dudley. 21 minutes for Dudley, 7, 5, and 4. Because when you can give 21 minutes to Dudley over a developing lottery pick like Marquise Chris, who's been trending up, whenever you get that opportunity, you just have to take it. You just have to do it. As for Devin Booker, that streak of 20-plus scoring games in a row ended, and it ended with some horrendous shooting, 5 of 20 for 14 points. But what I liked about this performance from Booker is that he had a triple one, and he had 5 assists. So, yes, the field goal percentage was horrendous. You're punting field goal percentage if you own Booker basically anyway this season. But you got some other peripheral stats, which are the things that he's going to need to develop to become an elite fantasy asset. On the Pelicans, Davis had 34 and 9, 2 steals and 5 blocks, a huge night for him. And speaking of huge, Drew Holiday, 37 minutes for Drew, 39 and 7, 3 threes, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 50% shooting. You can tell me he's a sell high for Drew. Drew's a top 20 player over the last month. I think he's the 18th ranked player I think I had him ranked 18th heading into the season. This is exactly what I think Drew can do. He is one of the most underrated players in the NBA whose career has been cut short by injuries. Not cut short because he's still playing, but he has not had an injury to his legs in 2 years, and that is a great sign. I would touch on as much wood as I could if it didn't make a bad echoing sound on the podcast. Maybe I'll do it anyway. That he doesn't hurt his leg, but we're talking 2 years ago. 2 years, it's not quite out of the woods. It's pretty bloody close though, so I'm confident. I like Drew a lot. If the Sixers could get rid of Okafor and get Drew and a first-round pick back, yes, Drew is an unrestricted free agent, so maybe he might not sign in Philadelphia. But if they could do that, use their cap space to sign Drew Holiday, man, what a win that would be. What a ridiculous win that would be. I love Drew. I think it's great. Tyreke Evans hurt his ankle, 8 minutes, 0 points, 4 rebounds and assists. He'd been just really struggling to do anything until that last game where he played 27 minutes and looked good again. But at the last 2-3 weeks before that, he'd done nothing and his minutes had gone backwards. Now he's hurt his ankle. It doesn't appear to be serious, so that's good news. But he is a borderline guy anyway. With him out, Timmy Frazier jumped in. He didn't do anything to inspire me at all. Well, Etuan Moore has looked great recently. Not a 12-teamer, but a 14-team league guy. 30 minutes for Morey, 12 and 4, 4 steals, 1 block, 2 triples, 50% shooting. This is what... And at the start of the season, there was the Etuan Moore, Tim Frazier situation. I thought that Moore should have got the job over Frazier. Frazier got it and balled out, but Moore was always the guy I was more interested in because I believe he's a better player and I believe he can play multiple positions. And we're seeing that now. He had that little run where he was getting limited, but Langston Galloway is out of the rotation and Moore is playing a considerable role for this team and is looking really good doing it. Bud Hield played 28 minutes for 11 points with 3 triples, but... Yeah, not a bad night from Bud, but I think you can do better in most standard circumstances. Miami and Minnesota, 11-game win streak Miami Heat. They did it again over the Minnesota Timberwolves. They did suffer an injury, Dion Waiters did suffer an injury to his ankle, a pretty bad sprain. He was able to play through it, but let's see what happens overnight. He had 12, 3, and 5, so the shooting cooled off as he went 4 of 13 from the field, only the 12 points, but... he continues to find ways to surprise us. 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in what's probably more fluky than him hitting 60% of his shots, getting those defensive numbers. I will maintain that Waiters will drop off when Joshy Richardson comes back, which is looking like it's going to be in the next day or two. Scooter Magruder had his best game, 39 minutes, 15, 5, and 4 for Scooter on 75% shooting and hit 3 triples. Just obviously a deeper league guy, and Goran Dragic is shooting 50% from 3 since he returned from injury. He was 7 of 9 in this game from 3. 33 points, 9 assists, 2 rebounds, 1 steal. I thought that Dragic could potentially be a top 40 guy this year and started off a little sluggishly. He is killing it at the moment. And Hassan Whiteside, 19 and 13 with a steal and a block, was fairly influential as well. How about Jimmy Johnson? Did he make us proud? No, he was alright. 29 minutes, 11, 4 and 5, a block, a 3, a decent night from Jim, but obviously not the peak of his powers. While Tyler Johnson really stunk it up, 8, 2 and 1. I still think that Tyler Johnson and Jim Johnson are players that you want to own. For the Wolves, Rick Rubio, 36 minutes, 14, 3 and 13, 2 steals. Huge performance from him, 50% from the field. Great stuff from Rubio. While Wigo dropped 27 on 23 shots. No assists, but 2 steals and 2 triples is not a bad night. Now, what about in the place of Zachary Levine? What went down there? Well, Brandon Rush started, again, which is good for the people that picked him up. 33 minutes, great. 5, 3, and 2 with a steal is not ideal. Now, he's nowhere near those numbers that he put up the first time that Zach missed time with that hip issue. But the solidity of his minutes is interesting. But we still don't know what is going to happen when Chris Dunn returns. Is Dunn going to take some minutes off Rush? But interestingly in this one, Tyus Jones played 31 minutes. I love that because I love Tyus Jones. 5, 1, and 9 for Jones with 2 steals. So when Dunn comes back, does Dunn get all of Jones's 30 minutes? Does Jones play 15, Dunn play 30, Rush play 20? I just don't know at this point. I feel like Rush's minutes are the most secure. And I think we can totally rule out Shabazz Muhammad from getting a big increase in what he does. He is just going to do what he does. Come off, play 22, 23 minutes, come off the bench, score points, and do nothing else. And that is just going to remain what he's going to do. He's not going to play at the 2. He's not going to play 30 a night. He's going to play mid-20s, score in the teens, and do nothing else. And that's fine as a one-off, as a streaming type situation, but that's really about it for Shabazz. Now, I did pick up Rush in a few leagues. I'm still holding. I like what Jones has done, but I think that Jones is going to drop back off when Dunn returns. And then I don't know what we're going to see from Dunn. I don't know that he's going to be getting 30 minutes or anything along those lines. Dallas and Denver, no Darren Williams, no Andy Bogut. Yogi Ferrell played 35 minutes. A good performance. Not as good as the other night, but still a good one. 15, 2 and 5 for Yogi. 2 threes, 2 steals, 1 block. Continues to have value until Darren comes back, but I really cannot see him having enough value to be maintained once Williams is back in the swing of things. The pencil, Harrison Barnes went 12 and 4, and Dirk had 9 and 6, so some subpar nights from those guys, as was Wes Matthews, although he almost got a very low-end triple-double, 10, 7, and 8. Seth Curry also struggled a little, 15 points with not much else happening there. And like a few other teams that seem to just rotate their centers on a random basis, the Mavericks did it here as well. When Dwight Powell plays minutes, he is good. 14, 4, and 2, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 75% shooting. He could be a fantasy dream, Dwight Powell. But he's played like 10 minutes the last 2 games. And in those games, Salah Mejri had played 16, 17 minutes. And he played 7. He had 2 points and 1 rebound. Give both these blokes 25 minutes and they're must-own players. The problem is they're going to seemingly alternate those minutes, making it impossible to know what's going to happen with Powell and Mejri, and now Bogey is almost back anyway. So it's just a general mess. For the Nuggets, no Manny Mudiay, no Ken Fareed, no Rooster. So we got a starting lineup that included Jameer Nelson and Farton Will Barton started at the 3. 37 minutes for Farton. He had 31 points with 5 triples, 8 rebounds, 5 assists and 2 blocks. A fantastic performance. Own him until Gallo comes back. But it's Farton Will Barton. He could very easily score 12 points on 20 shots in the next game. But you love that when he gets these minutes. He's just not going to get these minutes on a consistent basis once everyone's back. Gaz Harris played 37, had 20 and 5 with 2 steals and 4 triples. And Wilson Chandler, he started and had 14 and 10. Nikola Jokic, foul trouble. And that was some dumb shit fouls from Jokic. They were just fouls like he would get fouled under the basket and it would be play on. So the point guard would be dribbling it up the other end, and you just slap him on the ass. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Still, he played 24 minutes and went 13, 4, and 9. He had 9 assists in 24 minutes. I believe he had 9 assists in 17 minutes. Just stupid numbers again from Jokic. We just want him on the court more than that. Love Juancho as well. 18 minutes for Juancho, 7 and 9 with a steal and a block. He is going to be a fantasy force at some point when he gets a bigger role. And Jameer Nelson was not ideal. 2, 4, and 2 in 33 minutes, replacing Manny Mudiay. He can have that short-term value while Manny is out. The San Antonio Spurs and the Memphis Grizzlies late scratch Kawhi Leonard. And they didn't go with Kyle Anderson as the starter, which somewhat surprised me. They went with John Simmons, who was a turd, really. 4 and 2 with 0 assists and 2 steals in 24 minutes, while Kyle Anderson, he wasn't that much better. Well, actually, he was worse. 9 and 5 in 22 minutes. LaMarcus Aldridge was absolutely brutal to the percentages. 29% true shooting, 13 and 10 with 2 blocks. He had 21% on 19 attempts. That is a big dent in your field goal percentage. The Spurs did start Dwayne Dedmon. They played him 27 minutes, and he grabbed 12 rebounds. And he had 2 points. Really not worth owning in standards at the moment. Well, Dave Lee only saw 17 minutes, had 14 points because he didn't miss a shot. But a good night from Lee nonetheless. More a deeper league guy. Well, Dan Green had 12 and 8. Blocked 2 shots, had 2 threes, remains the best shot blocking guard in the game if you don't count Giannis as a shot blocker, but he's just not doing enough in other areas to maintain a consistent role moving forward. And Tone Parker just a middling 8 points. For the Grizz, Mike Conley 12, 2 and 9 with 2 steals and a block. A nice performance from him. And what about big Brandon Wright? This is the numbers from Brandon Wright that made everyone get very erect for him a couple of years ago. Man, I've got to get Brandon Wright in my 9-cat league because look at his ranking, because he turns it over negative 0.2 times per game, and that really boosted his numbers. But he has been in the past a hyper-efficient player. He had 9 points, 3 rebounds, 3 blocks in 14 minutes. The problem is The guy cannot play minutes. He cannot play 25 minutes or 27 minutes, which is enough to make him ownable. But a good sign to see him out there being active. Jermichael Green, 8 and 7 in 25 minutes. Sure, cool, whatever. And Zebo, 15 and 6 in 23. Neither of those guys. Now, Zebo had been playing quite well, but this is more representative of what we can expect from Randolph moving forward. Wasn't a good Marcus Sol night, 15 and 8 on 33% shooting. While Chandler Parsons, yuck, 1 of 10 for 3 points, 5 rebounds, 1 steal. Love him. Love the upside. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to be realised this season, I don't think. The last game of the night, Chicago Bulls had a 27-point lead over the Sacramento Kings. The game was tied, and then Dwayne Wade happened and won the game for Chicago. Just ridiculousness happening all over the place. Of course, with no Jim Butler starting, Michael Carter-Williams assumed the Jimmy Butler role and went 21, 6, and 4 with a 3, 2 steals, and a block. I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again because it's my podcast and I can. He should never have lost the starting job. It was ridiculous that they took him from starting to being a DNP CD while that weed Rajon Rondo remained as the backup. Yeah, Carter-Williams wasn't great, but he did what he needed to do. And now he's been given an opportunity here with Butler out, and they've said, have a bigger role, do some shit, and it's worked. Now, I don't know what Fred Hoiberg is going to do. Will he take Carter-Williams out of the lineup and make him a DNP CD again? Will he keep him as the backup 3 over Dougie McDermott, who played just 9 minutes? Man, he has been terrible. Will he play Carter-Williams in that position? Will he move Paul Zipser out of the rotation? Will Jaren Grant go from starter to DNP? Will Rondo continue to play? Will the Chicago team ever look like a functioning NBA franchise? I don't know the answer to any of those except the last one. The answer is probably no. So as for Carter-Williams, do you add him? This is why, if you've got a streaming spot, do it just in case. But he is not going to have these numbers. He might remain starting, and there's a big chance of that. But Jim Butler comes back. So A, he won't get these minutes because Butler runs point for big chunks of the game. They run no point guards with Butler at the point. And he just won't take these opportunities. He won't take these shots because Butler will be there. But if Butler misses another game, he's going to be worthwhile. 17 and 6 for Rob Lopez, while Rajon Rondo had 4 steals and 6 assists in his 20 minutes. Jaren Grant actually also played 35 minutes, 13, 5, and 3, one of his better games. But when it comes on 80% shooting, you know that there is no way of that being replicated for him. Paul Zipser went scoreless in his 24 minutes. The Kings, Boogie Cousins, ejected. 2 technicals, suspended for the next game. That is his 16th tech of the year, so he will miss Wednesday's game unless one of these techs gets rescinded. What it also means for Boogie is that every second tech he gets after that, he's suspended. So you're going to get a lot of Boogie suspensions coming up, unless he can calm his temper. And we all know what the chances of that are. The chances are 0. So DeMarcus Cousins, he is going to be missing lots and lots of games down the stretch here. The Sacramento point guard situation, did we get clarity? No, we got absolutely 0 clarity. In fact, we got more muddiness. 36 minutes for Darren Collison, 14, 1, and 5 with 2 steals. Fantastic. Oh, and Ty Lawson played 35 and went 22, 4, and 7. Like, what? They played together as Ben McLemore and Aaron Aflalo were limited. They started alongside each other, Aflalo and McLemore. McLemore played 16 minutes and Aaron Aflalo started 17. If you're starting Aaron Aflalo and Ben McLemore in a game in 2017, you deserve to lose. I don't care if you come back from 27 points down. You deserve to lose. McLemore had been playing all right, but that doesn't need to happen. Is Lawson a 12-teamer? I don't believe so. I do think that Dazza Collison is. With Boogie missing, Costa Koufos is going to be the short-term guy on Wednesday, but there are 12 games on. So you probably, if you add him, he's not going to find a spot on your roster, on your active roster. And Will Cauley-Stein, after a nice little run, played 7 minutes. So he'll move into a Costa Koufos type role. Anthony Tolliver will get a bump as well, but neither of those players or none of those players becomes a must-own guy, just mainly because it's a 12-game day, and there's going to be no spots on your active roster for them to get into the action and contribute to your team. All right, I'm going to take a quick break because my mouth is drying up like a treat here. Going to have a drink, and then we're going to be back to preview a very pissy 3-game Tuesday in the NBA. Alright guys, we're back. Let's talk perfect DFS. We'll start with FanDuel. Drew Holiday at 55.3 and MCW 40.2. The shooting guards, Bradley Beal 59 and Farton Will Barton 49.1. Small forwards, LeBron at 67.9 and Otto Porter 39.2. At power forward, Kevin Love 59.9 and Derek Favors 42.5. And at centre, Tristan Thompson 39.5 for a total, a massive total of $452.5, and that was $59,900. On DraftKings, Goran Dragic 52.5, Farton Will Barton 53.5, LeBron went 75.75. Kevin Love had 67, Derek Favors had 45, Beal at 62.25, Robertson at 34.75, and Michael Carter's at 41 for a total of $431.75, and that cost $49,800. There are 3 games on, so I'll give the usual reminder. This is even worse than most days. This is a DFS day that is a nightmare. This is a day that I will not be playing DFS. There are 3 games on. There are shit situations. There is too much overlap. This is not a good day for making money on DFS. Yes, someone does have to win the tournaments. It comes down to luck rather than skill on days like that, and that is not a profitable path or process for winning money long term. If you're going to play, limit your exposure. Or if you want a day off, this is the day to do it. Not that I'm trying to tell people not to play or to not listen to the podcast or anything like that, but this is a shit day. There is shit stuff going on. There are shit matchups. There is no value that's opened up at this point. Stuff may happen. It is not a good day for DFS. After that positive intro, let's talk about these games. Yes. The first game we're going to take a look at is the Brooklyn Nets. They're taking on the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets are favored by 10.5, and the total is 217 points. Karis LeVert has already been ruled out, as has Quincy Acey, with knee and ankle problems respectively. For the Hornets, we're waiting on the status of Cody Zeller. Obviously, if Zeller is out, we'll get Frank the Tank starting again, and Miles Plumlee moving into that backup role. For the Nets, with LeVert out, it's just going to be more Sean Kilpatrick and Bojan Bogdanovic, which we'll talk about here. Let's move on to the point guard battle here, and Kemba Walker. 8,900 for Kemba. He has been bumped up to the shithouse with a $1,300 price rise over on FanDuel and a $1,500 price rise on DraftKings. That is solely because there are 3 games on. So if you want value out of these players, you're not going to find it on this slate. So Kemba's fine because there's just no other real expensive point guard out there aside from Dame Lillard, or if you're playing on DraftKings where Jimmy Harden is valuable. But Kemba is the one. Is he worth it at that price? 8,900 is a lot, man. He struggled the last time he played. Now, point guards normally go very well against Brooklyn, but he struggled the last time. He's averaging actually under 30 the last 3 times he's played Brooklyn, which is terrible. And I think you got to recalibrate your expectations. I don't think you should be looking for 5x at this sort of a price. It's just unrealistic for him to get 45. You should be looking at maybe 4x and hoping he can get to that, which might work. Maybe 4.5 is probably a more. If you're on Basketball Monster, when I talk these values, that's what you're seeing in the ratio column. So when I say 5x, that's a ratio of 50. If I say 4.5x, it's a ratio of 45. So that's the sort of number that you're looking for over on the site. So Kemba's fine as a GPP, but I would have zero confidence of him being able to achieve enough value there. Now, the Nets point guards, that's another story. That is not a good situation. Spencer Dinwiddie and Isaiah Whitehead. Dinwiddie has outplayed Whitehead, but that's not saying much. He's averaging just 14 points across the last 3. He's priced at 3,700 while Isaiah's at 3,500, and he's averaging 7 over the last 3. Fine, you can take a punt on them as an upside guy in a tournament, but realistically, there's just not a lot to love from either of these point guards who don't even play the full complement of minutes at the position. At shooting guard, Shawnee Kilpatrick at 4,000. He's seen a little bit of a bump in his production recently. Hasn't been awesome for DFS purposes, averaging under 20 in the last 3 games, 19 points, which at 4,000 is not enough. But I think this is a good matchup for him. I think he's definitely worth a look with LeVert already being ruled out. I think he's fine to look at on both sites. As for Nick Batum, he hasn't been bumped up crazily at 7,400. Not a bad value play. At 76 on DraftKings, it's not as impressive because they have bumped him up $1,200, and I'm not all that impressed there. But he has got a good record against Brooklyn, so not a terrible guy to take a look at and play at the shooting guard position. Randy Foy and Joe Harris for the Nets. Yeah, cool. At small forward, we've got Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, we've got Bojan Bogdanovic. Both guys have the potential for 30-pointers. Both guys have the potential for performances in the teens. And that's what makes them both tournament-type players. And that's realistically where they both sit. If I was picking one of them, I would probably take Rondé on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, Boyan's cheaper. I would take him. But I couldn't feel any level of trust in playing either of those guys in cash. If I was wanting to trust one of them, and I had to, and said, you've got to fit one of them into this team, Boyan's probably the guy I go for, because I feel more confident in him getting those regular minutes every game, whereas Hollis Jefferson could get 30, he could get 18, he could get 21, who knows what Ken Atkinson is going to do. Mike Kidd-Gilchrist is at 5,200. His production is way down with everyone back in Charlotte, so that's not an interesting scenario for me at all at 5,100. Just nothing to like there. While Marco Bellinelli, much like the Bojan Bogdanovic, GPP punt guy only. Power forward, Marvin Williams at 5,400. Playing well, but 5,400 feels just a little bit high for Marv. Now, the matchup is great. I really do like him on DraftKings where he comes in at 4,800. That's good value. 54 on FanDuel, I'm not 100% in love with it, but it is a day of depressed value. So Marvin might be a guy that is worth taking a peek at. Frank the Tank Kaminsky is up to 4,500. If Cody is out, then Frank the Tank, it's all about him. If Zeller does play, it's really hard to get involved with Frank Kaminsky at that price, and he's at 47 on DraftKings. The same story sort of fits there. Trevor Booker also crushing it lately at 5,200. He's averaging 28 points across the last 3 games, playing off the bench behind Rondé. It's actually giving him somewhat of a spark coming off the bench in this new role. I would definitely consider using him at that price, just given the way that he has been used in his recent production. As for Zeller at 5,400, if Zeller plays, I would be okay with using him at that salary. And Brookie Lopez at 76 on FanDuel, it's just not totally appealing. It's not bad, and on this sort of a day, he has to be in consideration. On DraftKings at 7,000, no problems. Yeah, I always like him at that lower price on DraftKings, although the prices are coming a lot closer together now. He is still more valuable over there on DK. As for Miles Plumlee, he had 18 points in his Hornets debut. He's at 4,200, which is just, it's a lot high. It's way too high. But on DraftKings, he's at 3,000. You see Zeller out. Miles Plumlee at 3,000 is definitely in play at that sort of price. He gets you 20 points, and it's a nice return at 3,000, especially on a day with as little value floating around as what there is on Tuesday. The next game we're going to take a look at is the Orlando Magic and the Houston Rockets. The Rockets are favored by 11.5, and the total is 223 points. Nene is listed with a sore groin. We expect him to play. He's listed as probable. There's a fair bit of fantasy value in this one. This one is one of the games I think you should be targeting if you're going to target a game or play at all. Pat Bev's at 5,600 has really struggled until the last game where he put up a nice 27-pointer, which is what he's going to need at 5,600 to really bring that value back. So Beverly, on a normal slate, I wouldn't be that interested, but on this sort of a size slate, fine on both sides. 5,200 on DraftKings, and he had 30 in the last game over there. Hasn't been producing regularly, but hopefully this is a step forward for him. Lord Alfred Payton's at 6,600. Struggled recently, and now he gets Patrick Beverly. 6,600 for him just sounds like a disgusting investment. He's at 5,700 on DraftKings, so it's a little bit better, and I would consider it as a GPP guy, but not strongly. The shooting guards is where I think there's a lot here. Eric Gordon is at 5,500. Nice 27-pointer in the last game. Could easily get to 30. Like it. Evan Fournier. Yes, the last game was a turd, but that was the same for all Orlando players. They did nothing. He's at 5,600. Like it. We look at Gordon's at 54 on DraftKings. Fournier's at 56. No problem with them on either side there. Jim Harden, 12,700 for Jim. He dropped 74 in the last game. He is the big alpha dog on this slate of games. He is the high-priced guy. He is the guy that if you've gone risky, low-price guys, he is the one anchoring your GPP in that sort of a situation. On DraftKings, they've gone bananas and they've just gone, screw this. He is at 13,300 because of this piss-poor slate. But it might be the case that you just have to go for it because there just aren't any high-priced guys around. So you're spending money, you're spending it on Jim. The small forwards, Trev Ariza hasn't been great. He's at 5,600. but he presents a relatively okay value, and at 53 on DraftKings, the same thing. I like the matchup for him. He's got a good record against Orlando. He could get 30, so I think he's a decent play here. While Aaron Gordon, who knows what Aaron Gordon we're getting? Are we getting 7-point Aaron Gordon? Or are we getting 30-point Aaron Gordon? He is at 4,600, so there is some upside there. The matchup for him should be considered a positive one. So I think you would look at him as a GPP play and consider him a decent GPP play, not a terrible one at all. Sammy Decker, Jeffy Green, Corey Brewer, some other small forwards. If I'm punting on any of them, it's going to be Jeff Green. At power forward, Serge Ibaka, 5,900. Ignore the last game where he dropped 8. He'd been really rolling before that. I feel pretty good about Serge at least getting to that 30-point mark. At 62 on DraftKings, I'm not quite as interested. I still think it's okay, but I would much rather spend the sub 6,000 that he's priced at on FanDuel. Much better value for him over there. Ryan Anderson, maybe this is a day you have to rely on him for cash. He had a grand total of 3.8 points in the last game, and that is why he is not a cash player. In the last 5, he has had a 3.8 point game. He has had a 43.7 point game. This is why he is a great GPP guy and should be in nearly all GPP rosters on Tuesday. Putting him in cash is a very, very tough ask though, but in this situation, you just might have to, given how shit everything else is. At center, Clint Capella, 5,100, 28 minutes in the last 2 games, 29-point average over the last 3. Tasty matchup, nice price, love Clint. 5,300 on DraftKings, love it. Still feel a little bit scared of it, but love it. Nick Vucevic at 6,900. Again, if we ignore that last game, he's been playing very well. It's a positive matchup for him marginally. 6,900 for him on FanDuel is fine. Now, over on DraftKings, he comes in at 6,800, which again is fine value. I think Vucevic is worth a look. Now, cheap centers, there aren't many who are around. Bismack Biyombo comes in at minimum salary on FanDuel. On the odd chance that they limit Vucevic, Biyombo might get some extra minutes, and he comes in at 31 on DraftKings. So he's got scope. If he gets 20 points, he can easily return that value to you. The other guy to look at is Nene, especially on DraftKings where he's at 31. On FanDuel where he's at 44, I don't like it. But Nene's had a couple of big games this season, a couple of 30-pointers. And it's obviously a flyer, but if he's ready to go and they decide to give him extra run, it could easily work out at 3,100. Not an expensive price for Nene at all. The last game of the night, it is the Portland Trailblazers traveling to Dallas looking to get revenge on Yogi Ferrell. What a sentence. We don't know the status of a couple of players. Dame Lillard is dealing with a right ankle sprain. He is probable, so he should be ready to go. And for the Mavericks, the biggest ones we want to know is Darren Williams and Andy Bogut. Williams with that toe sprain and Bogut with the hamstring. Now, Bogut's not influencing us too much for the DFS, but Darren is going to have a massive impact because it's going to impact whether we play Yogi Ferrell or not. Now, Ferrell is at $6,000. He had 31 points today, so barely made that value. Even if Darren is out, he is not an automatic must-play, lock him in, core value guy at all. That was a DraftKings pricing. FanDuel, he's at 6,100 and had 29 points, so didn't hit value. So I'm not totally keen on considering him a must-play guy, but I think he'll get owned in decent levels of lineups, and it might make it a good idea to fade him in lots of cases. Dame Lillard, if he plays, which we assume he will, he's at 8,600. For cash, he is always a risky proposition, but on a slate like this, it's not one that you should be totally avoiding. Love it for GPPs though. Some good value there. He's at 86 on DraftKings as well because they've bumped him by $1,100. Ugh, nightmare. But still some decent value for Lillard happening here. I don't think we'd be using Darren Williams in his first game back. Shooting guard, CJ McCollum, 8,200. That's on FanDuel. That is too high. Not a fan of that salary. On DraftKings at 7,300, fine. I reckon almost put him as a member of the core. Love him at that $7,300 mark. He's averaging 37 across the last 3 games. A really good price there for CJ. Wes Matthews has been a little uneven. He had a decent 29-pointer today. He's at 5,800. I don't think his upside is that high, but he is not a bad cash play on a day like this, whereas Alan Crabb at minimum salary is just a tournament-type player. Seth Curry, what about him, you're asking? Well, he's at 6,100. That's a lot for Seth Curry to be able to return. 59 on DraftKings, not a must-play guy at those salaries. You need 30-plus points from him on a normal situation, maybe 27 on a day like this, and you can't guarantee that for Seth. He's averaging just 27 over the last 3, including only 18 points today. So we can't guarantee that sort of production from Seth. Evan Turner at 4,800 GPP only, as is Mo Harkless, who's down to 3,800. I don't feel very confident about Mo Harkless at all at the moment. Mo is at 34 on DraftKings though, so I do really like that. That is tremendous GPP upside, but not as a tournament guy, I don't believe. The pencil, Harrison Barnes, 6,900.
Giggity!
Hasn't been anywhere near that recently. Averaging only 28 over the last 5, but in a nice matchup, it just might be what you need to do on this sort of a slate of games. He's at 6,400 over on DraftKings, which is, again, it's fine, but there's definitely no value sitting in there. At power forward, Dirk is at 5,400. Hasn't come close to touching it recently, but we love the matchup against Portland for power forwards and centers, and that's exactly what Dirk is. And he comes in at 5,000 on DraftKings. Should feel okay about him getting to it. I don't feel great, but you should feel okay. Al-Farouq Aminu is at 5,300. Just feel he's $1,000 too overpriced. Playing well, but it's not translating into those sort of fantasy numbers. And at 5,200 on DraftKings, it's just not that interesting, that sort of price. It doesn't really make me say, yeah, let's go that way. Dwighty Powell with a 30-pointer today. You can absolutely look at him at a GPP if Bogut is out, but who knows if it's going to be him or Mejri that gets the minutes. I would lean a little bit more towards Powell in this sort of a matchup, but it remains to be seen. 3,700 for Dwight. And at centre, Mason Plumlee somehow has had his salary dip. He is at 6,400. It's a negative matchup for him, but I don't think it's a bad one on a day like this. 5,900 for Mason on DraftKings as well. Absolutely fine to consider him. As for Bogut, we won't be considering using him. All right, let's talk picks of the day before we wrap this up and get out of here. On FanDuel, it's ugly. Spencer Dinwiddie at 3,700. Pat Bev's at 56 and Kemba is at 89. Shooting guards, Shawnee Kilpatrick, 4,000. Fournier at 56 and Jim Harden at 12,700. At small forward, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, 42, and Trev Ariza, 56. The power forwards, Frank the Tank Kaminsky at 45, Serge at 59. And at centre, Bismack Biyombo at 35 and Clint Capella, 51. On DraftKings, Sean Kilpatrick, 43, CJ McCollum, 73, and Kemba's at 85. The shooting guards, Bojan Bogdanovic, 42, Eric Gordon, 54, and Jimmy Harden, 13-3. The small forwards, Mo Harkless, 34, Trevor Ariza, 53. Power forwards, Marvin Williams, 48, and Dirk at 5,000. And the centres, it's a rocket duo, Nene at 3,100 and Clint Capella at 5,300. On the Aussie sides, Moneyball, Spencer Dinwiddie, 38, Pat Bev, 55, and Dame Lillard, 87. Fournier at 49, Batum at 72, and Jim Harden at 12-8. For the small forwards, Sean Kilpatrick, 41, and Trevor Ariza, 54. Power forwards, Frank Kaminsky, 45, and Marv Williams, 54, and Clint Capella at centre is 55. On Draft Stars, Spencer Dinwiddie, 5,250, Sean Kilpatrick, 8,050, and Kemba Walker, 16-7. The shooting guards, Bojan Bogdanovic, 79, Eric Gordon, 9,650, and Jimmy Harden, 23-3. Small forwards, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, 77, Trevor Ariza, 10-2. The power forwards, Miles Plumlee at 5,000 as a tournament guy if Cody's out. Serge Ibaka, 11,000, and at centre, Nene, 7,850, and Clint Capella, 11,200. We are done today, guys. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Knicks assistant coach Jerry Sichting.